The first time Lieutenant Ryan Hale saw her, he forgot to breathe. The training deck of the starship Unity's Flame was always noisy, full of grunts and clashing weapons from both human and alien soldiers. But that day everything seemed to slow when she stepped inside. Her presence was silent yet powerful. She stood taller than any human in the room, nearly 7 feet of muscle wrapped in silver-gray fur that shimmered softly. Under the ship's white lights, her name was Varen, a warrior from the planet Lykar Prime. The Lykari were known across the galaxy as proud fighters, part feline, part wolf, and entirely fearless. Their glowing golden eyes could pierce through darkness, and their tails moved like banners of strength and emotion. Ryan had read about her people during training. He knew the Lykari were loyal to the bone, that they believed honor was worth more than life itself. But books never prepared him for the real thing, for the living, breathing person standing only a few meters away, her every motion sharp and graceful like art carved in motion. Varen was assigned to the ship's security division, a symbol of peace between their species after years of tension and misunderstanding. Humans and Lykari had once fought on opposite sides of the border wars, and trust between them was fragile. The Unity's Flame was supposed to change that, to build something new. Ryan was new too. Freshly transferred from the Terran fleet, he was young but sharp, with a calm face and eyes that carried a quiet curiosity about everything alien. He didn't believe in judging by species or shape. He believed in trying to understand. That's why he noticed Varen long before she ever spoke a word to him. He noticed how her ears flicked every time someone lied. He noticed how she would stay behind in the hall to make sure no one was left unprotected. And he noticed, though he'd never admit it, how her tail moved gently whenever she watched the stars from the viewing deck. But to Varen, Ryan was just another human soldier, strange, fragile, and too talkative. She had seen many of his kind. They fought bravely but died easily. Still, there was something different about this one. He trained harder than the others, stayed longer, and never mocked the Lykari customs like some of the other crew did. He was respectful, steady, and always smiling when he spoke to her. The first time they actually met was during a joint combat simulation. The mission: secure a damaged outpost on the holographic battlefield. Ryan was leading the human side. Varen led the Lykari. It wasn't supposed to be competitive, but it quickly became so. She moved like lightning, her claws gleaming with training blades. Ryan had to duck 3 times just to stay alive. When the simulation ended, she stood above him, victorious, her chest rising and falling as she breathed out a deep growl of satisfaction. He lay on the ground, panting, staring up at her. "You fight well," she said, voice low and rough, yet almost kind. Ryan grinned through the sweat. "You fight better." It made her blink. Most humans didn't compliment a Lykari. They feared them or envied them. But this one simply admired her. She found herself studying him, this small, soft-skinned man with tired eyes and a stubborn will. From that day, something changed. They started training together more often. Sometimes she corrected his stance with a clawed hand on his shoulder. Sometimes he shared old Earth jokes that made no sense to her, but still made her ears flick with amusement. Neither of them noticed the slow bridge forming between their worlds. For Ryan, she became a mystery he wanted to understand. She was fierce yet gentle, loyal yet lonely. He wondered what her world was like, what her people feared, what she dreamed of beyond battle. For Varen, Ryan was confusing. He was not strong like a Lykari, yet his courage burned bright. He spoke with honesty even when it cost him pride. And his scent, though strange, carried warmth. At night, she found herself thinking about his laughter, how it echoed differently from the metallic halls. Alive. Human. Neither of them could have known that fate was already turning its gears. In a universe filled with enemies and stars, one careless moment, a small, meaningless act, was all it would take to tie their hearts together forever. The story of a human and a Beastwoman didn't begin with romance or destiny. It began with respect. With 2 souls who never meant to collide, and soon, one innocent brush of her tail would change everything. Days turned into weeks aboard the Unity's Flame. The mission was peaceful, but tiring. Every day brought training, drills, and new lessons on how 2 very different species could work together, without tearing each other apart. Ryan and Varen had fallen into a strange rhythm. They trained together almost every evening now. At first it was just practice. a way to learn each other's fighting styles. But slowly it became something more, a habit neither wanted to break. She respected his calmness, the way he never mocked her claws or her culture. He admired her discipline and quiet strength. Around her, Ryan felt grounded, safe, even when she could snap his arm in two without trying. That day, the training hall was nearly empty. The hum of the ship echoed softly through the wide metal space. Ryan had finished a heavy combat round with 2 recruits and sat on the bench, breathing hard. Sweat clung to his face and neck. His uniform clung to him too tightly and his muscles burned. He was about to leave when a deep voice came from behind him. "You're slower today, human." Ryan turned, already smiling. "And you're still terrifying, Varen." She tilted her head, slightly amused. Her ears twitched in quiet laughter. "Perhaps you are tired. You need water." Before he could answer, she tossed a small blue hydration pack toward him. He caught it clumsily and took a deep drink. The cool liquid burned down his throat like relief. When he looked up, she was standing closer than usual. Her golden eyes studied him curiously, her fur shimmering in the white light. Ryan felt a strange warmth crawl up his neck. "You humans train hard but waste energy," she said softly. "You forget to breathe between strikes." Ryan laughed, rubbing the back of his head. "You sound like my old instructor," she blinked. "Was he as strong as me?" Not even close. For the first time she smiled, a real one. It was small, almost hidden beneath her sharp fangs, but it reached her eyes. Something about it made Ryan's chest tighten. She turned to leave then, tail swaying slowly behind her, a soft motion that reflected calm and contentment. Her tail was long, covered in fine silver fur, and it moved with an almost hypnotic grace. Ryan stood to stretch, and as she passed him, the tip of her tail brushed lightly against his shoulder. It was nothing, just a tiny accidental touch, but it tickled. Without thinking, Ryan reached back and brushed it away gently, as if moving a strand of hair. His fingers ran across the soft fur for barely a second, and then he froze. Varen stopped moving. Completely. Her back stiffened, her tail went still mid-sway. Slowly she turned her head, eyes wide with something between shock and disbelief. "You touched my tail," she said in a low, trembling voice. Ryan blinked, confused. Yeah, sorry, it just brushed me, reflex." Her ears flattened. Her breathing grew deep, uneven. The silence stretched painfully long. "I didn't mean anything by it," Ryan added quickly, raising his hands. "It was an accident." She stared at him as if he'd just confessed something impossible. Her golden eyes were no longer sharp with challenge, they were full of emotion. Confusion, fear, maybe even hope. "You touched my tail," she repeated softly, almost whispering now. "That means—" "You accept me," Ryan frowned. "Accept you? What are you talking about?" Among the Likari, the tail was sacred. It was not a simple part of their body. It was a reflection of their soul. Only family or mates ever touched it. It was a gesture deeper than any word, a promise that could not be broken. Varen took a step closer, voice shaking. You claim me as your mate." Ryan's mind went blank. "Wait, what? No, that's not— I didn't mean—" But she wasn't listening. Her eyes shone with a strange mix of disbelief and wonder. "The spirits hear your touch," she whispered. "You cannot take it back now." Ryan stumbled backward, panicked. "Varen, this is a misunderstanding. I swear I didn't know." She just looked at him, quiet and still. "Then your kind does not teach the meaning of touch. But to me it means forever." Her tail curled once, gently, as if sealing something invisible between them. Ryan stood there, lost, his heart pounding. Around them, the training hall was empty, silent, as if the whole ship held its breath. He wanted to speak, to explain, to fix it, but her eyes were too soft, too full of emotion for words to undo. A simple mistake, an innocent brush of fur. And suddenly, a bond older than human understanding had been formed. Ryan didn't know it yet. But in that one small, thoughtless gesture, he had changed both their fates forever. The next few days aboard the Unity's Flame were anything but normal for Lieutenant Ryan Hale. Ever since that small accident in the training hall, Varen had changed. She wasn't just a fellow officer anymore, she was everywhere. When he went to breakfast, she sat 2 seats away. When he went for patrol duty, she was behind him. During drills, she shadowed every move he made, watching him with sharp, protective eyes. At first, Ryan thought it was a coincidence. But when he caught her standing silently outside his cabin one morning, he realized it wasn't. He opened the door, half asleep, and found her there. Tall, still, ears twitching slightly. "Baron?" he asked, rubbing his eyes.
"Why are you—"
"Standing outside my room?" Her tail flicked once, slow and calm. "I guard what is mine." Ryan blinked, completely lost. "Yours?" I think there's been some misunderstanding." Her gaze softened. "No misunderstanding. You touched my tail. The bond is sealed." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Varen, it was an accident. Humans we don't have this kind of custom. It didn't mean what you think it meant." But she tilted her head, confusion flickering across her golden eyes. "You speak lies to hide fear. Do humans fear love so much?" Ryan's throat tightened. "It's not fear. It's different for us. Where I come from, touching someone doesn't mean a bond. It's just a mistake sometimes." She stared at him for a long, painful moment. "Among my people," she said slowly, "the tail is the soul's flame. To touch it is to say you will protect it, that you belong to one another." Her voice trembled slightly. "You would not touch it lightly. I have seen your honor, Ryan Hale." Ryan opened his mouth to argue but stopped. Her face was so sincere, so full of quiet belief that he couldn't find the words. How could he tell her that human customs meant nothing like hers, without shattering something sacred in her heart? The rest of that day felt heavy. Wherever Ryan went, whispers followed. Some of the human crew laughed softly when Varen followed him into the mess hall, carrying his tray like a silent shadow. Others gave knowing smirks, nudging one another. "Guess the Beastwoman's got a crush on you," one engineer joked. Ryan forced a smile, but inside his stomach twisted. This wasn't funny. Not to Varen and not to him. She didn't understand the teasing, of course. To her, loyalty was no joke. When she saw the humans laughing, her tail stiffened and she stepped closer to Ryan, a low growl rumbling in her throat. "Are they mocking you?" she asked in a quiet, dangerous tone. Ryan quickly shook his head. No, they're just talking. It's fine, really." She looked doubtful but said nothing more. Still, she refused to leave his side. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He sat at his desk staring at the dull light of his datapad. He felt trapped between two worlds, one where the touch had been meaningless, and another where it meant everything. He remembered her face in the training hall, that stunned, trembling look when he brushed her tail, the way her voice had cracked when she said, "You claim me as your mate." He hadn't meant to hurt her, but he was hurting her now, wasn't he? He stood and walked quietly down the hallway, the soft hum of the ship echoing around him. When he reached the observation deck, he found her there, alone, looking out at the endless stars. Her fur glowed faintly under the starlight, her tail resting quietly behind her. "Varen," he said softly. She turned her head slightly but didn't speak. He walked closer. "I'm sorry if I made you think something that isn't true. I didn't understand your customs. I didn't know what it meant." Her eyes shimmered with emotion. "But now you do." "Yes," he admitted, his voice low. "And I don't want to hurt you." She looked away, her tail curling slowly around her legs. "You already have." The words hit him harder than he expected. He wanted to say something, anything, but she turned back toward the stars. "In my world," she whispered, "a bond is not something we choose twice. Once made, it cannot be unmade. The heart remembers, even if the mind denies." Ryan felt something twist inside his chest. Guilt, sadness, maybe something more. He didn't know how to fix this. He reached out, wanting to comfort her, but stopped mid-air. His hand hovered inches away. He couldn't touch her again, not without meaning it. So he just stood there beside her, both of them staring silently into the galaxy beyond. Two hearts caught in a misunderstanding too deep for words. Neither of them spoke again that night. But something fragile and painful lingered in the air. A quiet connection that neither fully understood, yet couldn't break. And deep inside, Ryan began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, the bond wasn't entirely a mistake after all. The days after that silent night felt colder somehow. Ryan and Varen still worked together, but something between them had shifted. The easy warmth they once shared was now replaced by quiet tension. Varen still followed him, but her steps were slower, her eyes dimmer. She didn't speak unless necessary, and her once lively tail hung low behind her. Ryan hated seeing her like that. Every time he tried to explain himself, words failed him. She believed in something sacred, something deep, and he had broken it without meaning to. But what could he do? He couldn't pretend to be her mate. He couldn't lie to her people or to himself. Finally, desperate to fix things, Ryan went to Commander Ives, the human in charge of the Unity's flame. "Sir," he began nervously, "I think I made a cultural mistake with one of the Lycari. A big one." The commander looked up from his screen. "This about Varen?" Ryan blinked. "You knew?" The older man sighed. "Lieutenant, everyone knows. The entire ship's been gossiping about you two for days." Ryan groaned. "Great," the commander leaned back. "You brushed her tail, didn't you?" Ryan stared, surprised. "How do you know about that?" "It's in the cultural guidebook, son. Lycari bonding rituals are strict. You don't touch their tails unless you want to be bonded for life." "I didn't want anything. It was an accident." "I believe you," the commander said gently. "But she doesn't. And with her kind, it doesn't matter what you meant, only what you did." Ryan felt his stomach drop. "So what do I do?" The commander thought for a moment, then said quietly, "There's only one way to break a Lycari bond. You have to make her reject you herself." Ryan frowned. "Reject me?" "Yes, hurt her pride. Make her see you're unworthy. Only then can she walk away without dishonor." Ryan didn't like that idea. "You want me to lie to her again?" "Sometimes," the commander said softly. "The truth isn't what saves people. It's what frees them." Ryan left the office with a heavy heart. That evening, he found Varen alone in the training hall again. She was sharpening her claws against a steel practice dummy. The air filled with the sound of grinding metal. Her movements were tired, almost angry. He stood there for a moment, watching her. She looked fierce, powerful, and broken. "Varen," he said quietly. She turned, her ears flicking. "You should not be here. I need to talk to you." Her golden eyes narrowed. "Words again?" "Your words twist like smoke. I do not know which ones to trust." He swallowed hard. "Then don't trust them, just—" "Listen," she folded her arms. "Speak." He forced himself to sound cold. "You were right. I don't understand your kind. And maybe I don't want to. Humans don't believe in whatever this bond is. I never asked for it. I don't want it." Her tail went completely still. Ryan's chest ached, but he kept going. "You should find someone else. Someone who understands you. I can't be that person." The silence that followed felt endless. Varen's claws retracted slowly. Her eyes shimmered with something that looked almost like pain. "So that is your truth," she whispered. He forced himself to nod. Yes, she took a small step toward him. "Then why do your eyes look like you are bleeding inside?" Ryan froze. Her voice was quiet, trembling. "You humans say one thing, but your hearts speak another. I do not understand you." Then before he could answer, the alarm blared through the hall. "Warning. Hull breach detected." Both of them turned instantly. Red lights flashed. The sound of rushing air filled the corridor. The ship had been hit by a stray asteroid fragment during an external scan. Without hesitation, Varen sprinted toward the lower deck. Ryan followed, shouting after her. "Varen, wait! It's not safe." But she didn't stop. When he reached the damaged section, he saw her forcing open a jammed door with her bare claws, metal bending under her strength. She pulled a trapped engineer free and pushed him toward safety. Then the pressure dropped again, but a second breach. The metal screamed. Ryan stumbled, air rushing out, and before he could fall, Varen was there. She threw herself in front of him, sealing the gap with her body until the emergency doors slammed shut. When the air stabilized, Ryan saw her collapse to her knees. Blood, dark blue and thick, dripped from her arm. He ran to her side. "Varen, you're hurt!" She smiled faintly, pain flashing in her golden eyes. "You are safe. That is all that matters." "Why?" Ryan asked, his voice shaking. "Why risk your life for me after what I said?" She looked at him, her expression soft but full of sorrow. "Because even if your words are false, my bond is true." Ryan couldn't speak. He just held her hand, his heart breaking with guilt. He had tried to push her away, but instead she had almost died for him. And in that moment, Ryan finally understood. Her kind didn't love with logic. They loved with their soul, and maybe humans could learn something from that. The medbay was silent except for the steady hum of the ship's engines and the soft beeping of monitors. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and metal. Ryan sat beside Varen's bed, his hands clenched tightly together, eyes fixed on the alien woman lying motionless before him. Her silver fur looked dull under the white light. The wound on her arm was sealed, but her breathing was slow, her chest rising and falling weakly. The doctor had said she would recover, but it would take time. Ryan hadn't moved from that chair in hours. He couldn't. His heart was heavy, filled with guilt and regret. She had nearly died saving him, and he had hurt her, not just once but over and over again with his words. He had pushed her away when all she had wanted was to protect him. He whispered softly, "I'm sorry, Varen. I was such a fool." Her ears twitched faintly, the smallest sign of life. He leaned forward, his voice shaking. "I didn't understand," he continued. "Your world, your ways, your heart. I thought if I made you hate me, you could move on. But I only ended up breaking something I didn't even realize I cared about." For a long while, there was no response, just the soft rhythm of her breathing and the hum of machinery. Then slowly her eyes opened, golden, bright and gentle despite the pain. She looked at him for a moment before speaking in a weak but steady voice. "You did not leave." Ryan smiled faintly, relief flooding his chest. "No, I couldn't." Her ears moved slightly, the corners of her lips curling into a small smile. "That is good. You humans, you always run from what you feel." He chuckled quietly, the sound half broken. "Maybe we do. But not this time." She blinked slowly. "Why?" Ryan hesitated. The truth was tangled inside him, strange, confusing, but real. "Because I don't want to lose you," he said softly. "Not as a soldier, not as a friend, and maybe not as something more. I don't know what this bond means to your kind, but to me, it means I care." Varen's gaze softened. "You are strange, human. You hurt with your words, yet you heal with your heart." Ryan laughed quietly. "Yeah, I get that a lot." She shifted slightly, pain flashing across her face. Ryan instantly reached out, holding her hand carefully. Her claws were sharp, but she didn't pull away. For a long moment, they just sat there, silent, breathing the same air, sharing something wordless but deep. Then, very slowly, Ryan reached down and touched her tail. Not by accident this time, but with meaning. His hand moved gently, a soft brush along the silver fur. Varen's breath caught. Her golden eyes widened slightly and a tear slid down her cheek. "You choose me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ryan nodded, his voice low but sure. "Yes, this time I do it because I understand. Because I want to." She closed her eyes, a quiet purr escaping her throat. Not of ownership, but of peace. Her tail curled around his wrist, light as a promise. For the first time since they met, there was no confusion between them. No fear, no misunderstanding, just quiet understanding. "Humans are full of chaos," she murmured softly. "Yet in that chaos there is warmth." Ryan smiled. "And you, Varen. Your strength and calm in the middle of it. Maybe that's why we need each other." Her ears flicked gently, amused. Perhaps the stars wanted it so. They stayed like that for a long time. Two beings from different worlds, holding on to something fragile but true. Later, when the doctor came to check on her, he found them still together, hand in paw, silent but smiling. As the door closed softly behind him, Varen turned her head slightly. "Ryan Hale," she said quietly. "Among my people, to touch the tail again is to renew the bond. Are you sure?" He looked at her, steady and calm. "More sure than I've been about anything." Her eyes softened again, glowing like liquid gold. "Then you are no longer a mistake. You are my choice," and Ryan smiled, feeling a strange warmth fill his chest, the kind that came when two hearts finally understood each other. He realized then that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or intelligence. It was the ability to learn, to understand, to love beyond fear, and maybe, just maybe, that was what the universe needed most. Two soul, one human, one beast, finding harmony not through rules or logic, but through the quiet power of compassion. And in that silent med bay, under the hum of the ship, a new kind of peace began to grow. Days passed like gentle waves, each one carrying Ryan and Varen closer in a way neither could fully explain. She healed quickly, her body strong, her spirit even stronger. Yet what surprised Ryan most wasn't her recovery. It was how she looked at him now. Every time their eyes met, there was a quiet tenderness behind the fierce gold. It was a look that made his chest tighten and his words stumble. He had never been the kind of man to believe in destiny or bonds written in the stars. But when she smiled, something inside him began to believe anyway. One morning, when the ship was sailing through a calm stretch of space, Ryan walked into the training deck. Varen stood there, moving gracefully through her combat drills. Her movements were fluid and powerful, her tail sweeping behind her like silver flame. She paused when she noticed him, tilting her head slightly. "You watch like prey," she teased softly. Ryan chuckled. "And you fight like thunder." Her ears twitched, pleased by the compliment. Then perhaps thunder should teach the prey how to survive. They trained together for hours. She corrected his stance, guiding his arms with her claws, light and careful. Her touch burned through him in ways he didn't expect. Sometimes their eyes met for too long, and both would step back, pretending nothing happened, but something was happening. Something real. When they rested, she sat beside him on the floor, tail curling lazily around her legs. "Your world," she began softly, "does it have this kind of bond between warriors?" Ryan hesitated. "Not like yours. Humans have friendship, love, loyalty, but what you and I have, it's different. It's something I can't quite name." Varen looked at him for a long time, then nodded slowly. "On my world, when two share battle and blood, they become one soul. Not owner and owned, just joined. It is trust made living." Ryan smiled faintly. "That sounds beautiful." She turned her head slightly, golden eyes glinting. "And terrifying." He laughed softly. "Yeah, that too." There was silence between them for a while. The ship hummed softly. Outside, the stars drifted like glittering dust. Then she reached out, her tail brushing lightly against his leg. It wasn't by accident this time. It was deliberate. Ryan froze, heart pounding. He looked at her, but she didn't move away. Instead, her voice came low, almost trembling. "In my culture," she said, "when one brushes another's tail like this, it means acceptance, not just of the bond, but of what comes after." He swallowed hard. "And what comes after?" Her eyes softened. "Life. Together. As one." Ryan felt 1,000 thoughts rush through him. Confusion, wonder, fear, and something deeper. Something he didn't want to name too soon. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he placed his hand gently on her tail, returning the gesture. Her breath caught softly. "I don't know what our future looks like," he said quietly, "but I do know that wherever it goes, I want to walk it with you." Varen stared at him, emotion flickering in her eyes like a storm and sunrise at once. "Then it is sealed," she whispered. They sat there in silence, the kind that didn't need words. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He found himself in the observation deck, watching the endless black sea of stars. His mind was restless, his heart full. He thought about Earth, its green forests, blue oceans, the laughter of people who would never understand this strange connection he now shared with a warrior from another world. And yet, somehow, it felt right, like he was part of something larger than both species, a bridge between two hearts that were never meant to meet, yet did. He heard soft footsteps behind him. Varen approached quietly, her fur shining in the dim starlight. "You look at the stars like they speak to you," she said gently. Ryan smiled.
"Maybe they do."
"Or maybe they're just reminding me how small we are. And how lucky." She stepped closer, her shoulder brushing his. "Among my people, when two mates stand beneath the stars, they are said to be witnessed by the universe itself." Ryan turned his head, meeting her gaze. "Then let it witness us." She smiled softly. A real, heartfelt smile. "You speak like a poet, human," he chuckled. "Only when I'm inspired." Her tail flicked once, brushing his hand again. This time he didn't hesitate. He let his fingers intertwine with it gently, and the connection between them deepened, warm, quiet, infinite. The stars watched, silent and endless, as two souls from distant worlds found something ancient and unspoken among them. Not ownership, not duty, but choice. And for the first time in a long while, Ryan felt peace, the kind that comes when you finally stop running from what was meant to be. The stars stretched endlessly before the ship, a silent ocean of light and shadow. Ryan stood near the command deck window, watching the distant suns drift by. His reflection looked tired but peaceful, a man who had finally stopped running from what his heart already knew. Behind him, the doors opened softly, and Varen stepped in. Her fur glimmered silver in the dim light, her golden eyes calm but deep. She had healed fully, her strength returned, yet there was something different in her gaze now. Something softer. "You are awake early," she said gently. Ryan smiled without turning. "Couldn't sleep. Guess I'm still getting used to peace." Varen walked closer, her steps quiet. "Humans find peace difficult," she said, standing beside him. "You spend so long fighting for it that when you have it, you do not know what to do." He chuckled softly. "Maybe you're right." They both looked out at the stars in silence. The hum of the ship surrounded them like a heartbeat. After a moment, Ryan spoke again. "You know, I used to think the universe was just empty space, cold and endless. But standing here with you, it feels alive." Varen tilted her head slightly, her ears twitching, "because now you see it through the bond." He turned toward her, curious. "The bond changes how we see the world?" She nodded slowly. "It changes everything. Where once I saw you as a strange, fragile creature, now I see the fire behind your eyes. I see your courage, your pain, your hope. And I feel it as my own." Her words filled the air like music, and Ryan's chest tightened. He wanted to say something, but before he could, the ship's alarm suddenly blared. A red light filled the room. "Impact warning," came the voice over the comms. "Unidentified vessels approaching." Ryan and Varen exchanged quick glances. Their moment of calm shattered. They rushed to the controls, watching as several dark ships appeared on the scanner. Pirates. "Get to the lower deck," Ryan ordered, already reaching for his blaster. Varen growled low in her throat. "No, I fight with you." "This isn't your fight," he insisted, her tail flicked sharply, her voice fierce. "It became my fight the moment you brushed my tail the second time, human." He stared at her, at the fire in her eyes, at the loyalty burning there. And he knew arguing was useless. Together they ran to the defense bay. The ship shook as the pirates fired. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the corridors. But side by side they fought, human and beast moving like two parts of one soul. Varen's claws tore through attackers with lightning speed, while Ryan's shots were precise and sharp. Every time one of them stumbled, the other was there, to block, to protect, to stand again. And in the chaos, Ryan realized something strange. He wasn't afraid anymore. Not of dying, not of being misunderstood, not of her. He was home. When the last pirate ship fled into the void, silence returned, broken only by the distant crackle of fires dying out. Ryan slumped against a wall, breathing hard. "Remind me," he said between gasps, "never to argue with you again." Varen smiled, her tail brushing against his shoulder gently. Wise choice. They stood there together, surrounded by smoke and light, both bleeding but alive. Ryan looked at her. Really looked. Her fur was scorched in places, her face marked with battle, but she had never looked more beautiful. "You saved me again," he said softly. Varen's voice came low and calm. "We saved each other. That is what the bond means." He reached up, his hand touching her cheek carefully. "Then maybe the universe isn't so cold after all." Her eyes softened. "No, it is full of light, or if you dare to see it." They stayed like that for a moment. Two hearts beating in rhythm. Two souls bound not by accident but by choice. Later, when the ship was repaired and the stars shone once more outside the window, Ryan found himself sitting beside Varen in the observation deck. She rested her head against his shoulder, her tail wrapped gently around his arm. He whispered, "You know, it all started with one mistake." Varen chuckled softly, her voice like a warm breeze. "Perhaps the stars wanted that mistake." Ryan smiled, his eyes closing. "If every mistake led to something this right, I'd make them all again." She looked up at him, golden eyes glowing. "Then it was never a mistake. It was fate." And under the vast ocean of stars, the human and the Beastwoman sat together. No longer strangers, no longer teacher and student. No longer bound by misunderstanding. They were simply two souls who had found meaning in each other. And somewhere, far away among the endless lights of the galaxy, the universe itself seemed to sigh in approval. As if even the stars knew that humanity's greatest power had never been strength or logic, but the simple, unbreakable ability to love.